If you've ever caught yourself saying, I'm just not good at that, or I could never do that, that's what we're diving into today on the podcast. The difference between a fixed and growth mindset and how it could be the thing that's holding you back from the results you want. This is the Newstrength Way, and I've got Jess joining me. We are in the new studio today, so I'm pumped to be here. Jess, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you so much. It's great to be back here doing this again, talking about shit that I love.
Love it. So let's dive right into it. We're not just talking about the motivation, we're talking about the reason why some people grow and others plateau. Jess, I know that this is a really close spot to your heart, and I know that it's been really meaningful for you, so I want you to just take the reins here and tell us about what is a growth mindset, what's a fixed mindset, and what does it mean to you?
Okay, fantastic. So there's a lot to unpack with these two different mindsets. I guess where I would start is just knowing and recognizing, as the 33-year-old adult I am today, where a fixed mindset has come up for me in the past. So when we think about a fixed mindset, it's the deep-seated belief that your abilities are just what they are, that they cannot be anything more than what you have, and then the label you put on that is fixed. So I can look back in my childhood. I grew up playing sport, and sport was netball. In school, I didn't thrive academically. I don't think school was like the best time for me in terms of being smart, intelligent. I held a lot of shame around being dumb. So I had a lot of limiting beliefs around I'm just not good at doing my homework. I need someone that has to teach me everything so simply. Like I just have a hard time doing that work. So my mum and my dad at the time, they nurtured the physical side, my physical abilities, because that's kind of where I excelled. So when we moved into netball, I was like, great, I feel physically skilled, and I got pretty high, like on my natural talent, until I hit that ceiling, and my coaches would give me feedback saying things like, you've got a lot of natural talent, but now you need to put in extra effort, extra time, extra practice if you want to get better. Like I had coaches telling me that if I put in the extra work, I could play for Australia. But due to the fixed mindset, it held me back. So that was probably the first time where I would look back in my childhood and see that that was a fixed mindset. So the person who actually is responsible for coming up with these two mindsets is Carol Dweck. So she's been doing studies on these two mindsets since the 1970s. And this applies to children, adolescents, teens, all the way through to adulthood, essentially until you leave this world. These two mindsets, you will carry both of them in some area or factors of your life that you don't even know about. And that's, what the cool thing is about self-awareness and growing as a person. So in Carol Dweck's research, she defines a fixed mindset as someone who will avoid challenges. They will take feedback as a personal attack. They'll feel threatened by other people's successes. And essentially they just look at whatever feels hard for me right now, I'm going to avoid it. I'm not doing any of these challenges. I feel uncomfortable. This makes me feel shame. So a lot of feelings of disempowerment, shame and things like that come up for a fixed mindset. It's I am good at this one thing and I'm just going to stick to that, which is cool until it's not, like the example that I used with netball. It was cool because my natural talent took me so far until I actually had to grow upon that to get better and I hit that ceiling. If we flip it, the growth mindset is the antidote, essentially, the way that we break free of a fixed mindset. So a growth mindset will actively look at challenges as ways to develop their current abilities, ways that they can practice new skills that with time, patience, practice, and effort, you will get better.
Yeah, I think that's nailed it there, Jess. And I think there's so often, as a coach, one of the things that comes up is like, we see so many people make changes in this area here. Somebody that comes in and they tell us, it's like, I could never do a pull-up, or I've never been able to run, or I've never been able to do this. And then all of a sudden they've committed to the journey. They maybe not necessarily like training to start off with, but when they take those steps and they just start seeing a little bit and they go, well, you know what, like, I didn't think I'd be able to do the 10 kilo weights, and now I'm doing the 12. So what else is possible for me? And that starts to break down the fixed mindset traits that you've had before and open up the possibility that growth could be there. And once you have that a little bit and it gives a bit of that hunger there, that growth mindset really starts to kick in and really starts to train their way up to where somebody can actually start making changes and actually have the progress that they maybe didn't believe they could have. And I think that's one of the beauties of this year is like we're talking about something that's formed as a kid, but it's not necessarily locked in either. And it can be, as you said, it's like it can be related to what aspect of your life it is too. Like for me, I found school was easy. Like I was a smart kid. I didn't really have to try too hard. I still jokingly talk about it in the gym with our teachers that are working at the gym, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember like I was the kid in history class that didn't have to study. I didn't pay attention to the teacher. I just read the textbook in front of her while she boringly read the textbook to the whole class, and then I started chatting with my mates. And I topped the year at that time. And then she was filthy about it and made a big scene about that I'd topped the year and done better than what I'd expected to be. But the reality was like in that way there, I was like, I didn't know, I probably had a fixed mindset around it. I didn't have to work hard. I'm good at this. I don't have to work hard at this. And that probably took a while to retrain, even though in the gym setting or in physical, like I was a bit of a chubby kid. I probably struggled a little bit more on that side, but I found that by doing stuff or by training and that sort of thing, I found myself get better, and that helped me go, well, in this setting, training hard gets you the results. This setting, training hard opens up possibilities for you. It probably took me a long time before I actually saw that on the working world or the academic world, because I got away with it for so long. And I think like you can be in a fixed mindset in one aspect of life, but in a growth mindset on another one. And it is valuable to be able to see how you can take from that side there and transfer it across too. So what are some other traits that we see, or what are some other areas that we see people like often have this come up in?
As in a fixed mindset?
Yeah.
Oh, I think everything that you just said pretty much sums it all up. Like, I think what you just said then highlights that, yeah, we can be very growth-based in one factor of our lives. So say we're really good with money or we're really good with our career, but then we come to the gym and we're fixed. We're like, oh, this is this hard movement, I can't do it. Like, oh, I'm too heavy to do a pull-up. Like, that's where we can sort of start to see that there are, different factors where we do have fixed and we have growth. So even categories of training, for example, like nutrition. You might be really good with your training, but your nutrition is what's letting you down. And so a fixed mindset is like, if this is too hard, I'm just going to stick with what's being good. Then again, we recreate those ceilings and those limitations for us. So I think the most beautiful thing that people can do is that if they do want to grow, and this is something that I've always practiced, literally I've like discovered fixed mindsets every year of my life of like, here's myself limiting myself again. Like I had one 2 weeks ago with the team this year that I recognized, is just remembering that wherever we start to say things or use language that's disempowering, I can't do this, this is too hard, I'm not even going to try. Like getting an insight to your language is one of probably the first steps you want to take to identify if you have a fixed mindset. And then if you want to grow, you need to remember that a growth mindset, the traits we need to adopt is putting in the effort and seeing effort as progress. Looking at feedback. So if you did a squat and it felt a bit shitty, you don't take that personally. The squat's not out to get you. You just go, oh, what feedback did that get me? So the feedback isn't personal. Just look at it as information, as data, just something that you can use to make positive change. And look at setbacks as a way to develop your skills. I think there's some of the beautiful ways that we want to start delving into recognizing if we have a fixed mindset, and then where we might need to introduce some of those traits of the growth.
Where are some ways that like maybe how we've been brought up has impacted where we see that there? Like obviously we spoke about it a little bit. We're probably on opposite ends of like you found it easier in the sporting scenario, and I was probably grinding my way away until I made myself good at that side of stuff there. But where else is some things that you do see that pop up, like as we've grown, as we've developed, as we've gone from being child into adults, where is some of those things that maybe have trained us into a certain tendency?
As in like what's influenced perhaps, or maybe even nurtured the default?
What's nurtured your default?
So what's nurtured our default mindset? So depending on a lot of different environmental factors growing up, obviously your environment can impact you. The people around you, I think, are directly, not responsible, but highly influential in shaping those mindsets for you. And, we can look back on, if we use parents as an example, like every parent has done the best they could with what they had available to them at the time, whatever they went through prior to having kids themselves. We can only do what we have to work with. But however you're like growing up, everyone around you models ways of coping. And so if what's been modeled to you as a normal coping mechanism is to respond to failure and respond to challenge as that's just it, I'm shit, or I'm just going to stick in this lane, or they were disempowered by whatever challenges and setbacks that they went through, models that exact thing to the child. So, not that we're intentionally taking those things in, but as children we grow up, we're just trying to survive the world that we're living in. So we're going to unconsciously adopt whatever patterns we read in our parents and model that. And then as we get up to in adulthood, hopefully we self-reflect and we can change the things that we know aren't working well. So yeah, the people in your life, the environments, this is why team sports are really great for kids, because you get that sort of healthy, co-regulated dynamic in a team sport. It teaches you to think about everyone else as instead of just yourself. So if they're sort of functioning and they're modeling teamwork and traits of like perseverance and effort, and we move forward, we win when we move forward together, or we rise when we lift each other up, can be pretty influential too. And I think that carries into the gym. Our members come to the gym, they're surrounded by an environment that will positively influence their mindset. Like we're here as trainers to influence them through their training and show them that they're really capable of much more than their mind thinks. So they come to the gym and it's like, this is a growth environment and we're here to help you flip those fixed narratives.
Yeah, 100%. I do come back to, I do think about, one of the other pieces, when you are growing up and you said your environment, the social circle that you keep. It's pretty common amongst, kids, and particularly, when we were younger, the kid who went home and studied, you gave a hard time because he was studying. And, even if they were doing well or they might not have got as good a marks as you, as oh, you studied and I didn't study and I still got better marks, etc. It's that's, doing the opposite of what it's trying to sort of discourage the work being done. And then at the same time, it's I remember at footy training where it's don't go and do more because that makes the rest of us look bad. Don't try to do an extra one. And I remember there was points where in footy where I would do, because I didn't have the natural talent of, I wasn't a exceptional player from a performance and skill set, but what I did have was I just competed on every play. I tried my absolute best in every game. And then to do that was when we were doing forwards and backs doing intervals, I beat all the forwards and then I'd go and run with the backs and just try to keep up. And then I'd go back and I'd beat all the forwards and run with the backs. And that was while the rest of the team was resting, I'd go and go again. And I just did way more work than everyone else in that point there. And that was how I banked on. I was this is my value to the team, is I'm going to work harder and I'm going to be there and I'm going to try to bring people up with me. But when I initially started doing it, there was players that were don't do that. It makes us look bad, or you're a try hard for going and doing extra reps, extra sets on cardio. And then what ended up happening was, because I was playing good footy at the time, some of the other boys started jumping in and doing the same thing. Then all of a sudden we had 2 or 3 of the forwards that would go and run with the backs as well. And as a result, we ended up in under 18s, and we've got a couple of the boys train at the gym with us now, which is super cool. But of that there, we didn't have the most talented team, but because we started and we went those extra miles, we kept on doing the extra reps. We got to the grand final in the first division, playing against the kids who were touted to go and play for the Knights and go and play NRL. And we didn't get the chocolates in the end. We got beat in the grand final, but we were there with a team that probably shouldn't have even made finals, because we just competed on every play, and because we saw it as putting in more work than everyone else was going to mean that at the back end of games we were going to get the result there. And I think that was what started off as where there was probably limiting beliefs in that there, as other people were in the team were going, hey, let's not try too hard at training. We're not the skilled team. We're not expected to win here. Let's hold ourselves back. And then one person starts, another couple of people join along, and before we know it, everyone's of the opinion where it's oh, we can do more. We can play good footy. We've got the talent here enough as long as we work for it. And I think that's where the environment comes into it as such a big piece. And having the right people. We had a really good coach in that time there that was great for us in that he encouraged that. He knew the cattle that we had. He knew that we didn't have the most skilled team there, but if we just worked harder than everyone else, we'd be able to compete. And he fostered that and encouraged that, versus some other coaches might not have worried about that. They might not have necessarily gone, all right, well, our route is trying to push growth mindset on, trying to push these guys to be fitter and see themselves be able to achieve more. And I think that's where the environment comes in for that there. So I think you've absolutely nailed it.
Before you move on to, there's 2 things that came to my mind as I listened to you share that. the first thing is effort will always outlast talent. And that's something I feel like I learnt the hard way growing up, was like I just relied heavily, laid back on my natural ability. Like, yeah, I'm naturally talented. I don't have to work hard. I was that person. And that version of me still pops up every now and then. I have to catch her and say, no, come on, we've got to put the effort in and we've got to keep moving and growing. So, yeah, effort will always outlast natural talent. So, for any listeners on this episode right now, make sure that statement sticks in your mind. If you have talent, even if you don't, but you've got, or you have some level, just remember that's going to take you so far. And if you want to be great and you want to grow, you're going to have to put in extra effort to be better and to move towards your potential and achieve your goals. We all feel great when we're achieving our goals and we're living the life that we see in front of us that we want to be living, that rich, meaningful life that's got depth, authenticity, connection. Like if we want those things, we have to grow outside of the limitations that we put on ourselves. And that takes radical ownership. We have to take ownership of, okay, here's a fixed mindset. I know where this comes from, but I am an adult and I have a choice to make and I can move forward and break that. That's the first thing. The second thing that came up was just, this is my value of self-compassion, is just looking at our fixed mindset with what's the positive intention behind that story? What is the positive intention behind the limiting belief of like, let's not try hard, like let's just stay here. I'll throw that to you, Jacob. Do you have any ideas on what the positive intention of that might be?
I think it comes back to that same sort of thing, like where it wasn't called a study, it's the trying to take some. I don't think it's necessarily trying to pull somebody down in those cases there, but it's trying to not have them stand out in the wrong way. So it's like, because everyone on, say, the footy team, we're all mates. It wasn't like necessarily like, oh, we need to pull him back down because he's trying harder than everyone else there. It's like, it's probably in some positive ways, it's trying to not be the one that's left out. That's like, and maybe that's a heart on the sleeve mentality. Is like, oh, if he goes and tries everything he's got and we still can't perform there, like what's he going to feel like there? So it's like, if we just pull him back down, then we've all got the excuse, like we could have tried harder. Like we could have gone further if we tried harder and if we trained harder and did those things. In reality, like I probably think, looking back at that game, and obviously, like, yeah, sure, we could have all started playing footy earlier or whatever it is, but like we probably squeezed the absolute juice out of that team that we had. And if our potential was to come second, like, that's okay, because we squeezed everything out of it that we could. It's way, way better than going, oh, well, if we tried hard, we might have been able to compete, but in the end, we got the wooden spoon.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't think it's necessarily with a negative point there, but it's part of what's the normal too. And ultimately, what's the normal, what's the average, doesn't mean that it's good.
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
way there too.
Yeah, and we can change that. In my personal experience, the way that I see the positive intention being is protecting ourselves from shame and inadequacy. It's a lot easier to tear someone else down than it is to sit with your own discomfort when you feel inadequate. So I think that's also something that's quite prevalent in Australia, like the tall poppy syndrome. We pull others down because it might make us feel small or it might make us feel inadequate. So a fixed mindset for the listeners, like just recognize that when you're put into a situation where you feel uncomfortable, what feelings come up for you? 9 times out of 10, I can guarantee you it's going to be shame or inadequacy. And they're pretty big fucking emotions. Like they're very difficult to sit with. Our nervous system has a hard time holding them in our body. But if we just learn some skills, emotional strategies to cope with things like that, we can really work through that. That'll be a big part of transforming our fixed mindset into a growth mindset. Because yes, we can just say, oh, this is just feedback. We can say those things, but if the body and the feelings and the sensations in our body are having a hard time taking that on board, we need to build our capacity to sit with uncomfortable emotions. I don't think that's something that we really were modeled growing up either. This is kind of like we're in this generation of like, your emotions are valid, blah, 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 blah. To me, I feel like if you can expand your capacity to sit with things that are uncomfortable, which is obviously what you do every day when you come to the gym. Everything in the gym is uncomfortable. You've got to talk to people. You've got to do new exercises. The coach is going to call you out for a demonstration if you're not listening. Like, for clients listening to this, just remember, these are all the subtle ways that you're probably not paying attention to how you're expanding your capacity to sit with discomfort. And if you do that, you'll be fucking great moving forward.
Love it. So let's dive into some practical strategies to help somebody move from a fixed mindset to a more growth-oriented mindset. So I think one of the biggest ones, and Nate's sitting over the back here on this now, and he's really great at, is the power of yet. is attaching like, I can't do pull-ups yet. I'm not great with my nutrition yet. And then looking at that as a means of going, well, you could be, we just haven't done the work yet. We haven't learnt what we need to learn. We haven't had the experiences that we need to have to get to that point there. And if I do the work, I can get there. What's your take on that? Like, that's obviously right down the like NLP line of where you've done a lot more work than I have. What does that help retrain for people?
Yeah, so paying attention to your language can help retrain your brain. So obviously we've got a lot of neural pathways in our mind, and every time we fail, there is an opportunity for us to improve those neural pathways. So when we fail, that's a stimulus that gives us the opportunity when we apply effort to make them stronger. So the fixed mindset doesn't want to do that though. So the reason why some people excel over others is that if the fixed mindset isn't being challenged, it will stay the same while everyone else is growing above them and in front of them. So when you're failing, when you notice discomfort, like my strategies that I would recommend is you first need to have awareness. You need to be aware of your language as one of the first key windows. So our language is an insight directly into our inner world. So how someone speaks, the language and the statements that they use gives us direct feedback over what their internal world is like. So as a coach, that's obviously very valuable. And that gives us the opportunity to say, hey, I'm just noticing some of this language is quite limiting. You know, I wonder how we might be able to reframe that and make that a bit more helpful moving forward. I'm also big on moving away from like terms like positive, negative, good or bad, because those labels imply a lot of black and white thinking. If I'm doing it good, I'm fucking great. But if I'm not, then I'm failing. So there's no in between. So it's like, are these thoughts helpful or are they not? So the first thing is always awareness. Recognize where you're limiting yourself and do that through recognizing your language.
Let's dive into what does the growth mindset version of that look like in language?
Yes. Okay. So let's just say I can't do a pull-up yet. With time, effort, and practice, and trust in the professionals around me to do my programming in a gym setting, I will get better. I can't do it yet, but with effort, time, and practice, I will. So it's looking at, if I can't do this, if I say I can't do that, what's the opposite? I can do that. And then apply with effort, practice, and time.
Yeah,
I think that's the simplest way, just to keep it simple. Just identify what you say you can't do, flip it to what you say you could do, and then apply after that with effort, time, and practice.
And that like leads into our next piece. Is like a lot of the time I feel like we get stuck at the outcome that we're trying to get towards, and like being so focused on what that outcome looks like that then that's where it can seem overwhelming, because you're looking at the gap. You're looking at, here I am right now and here's where I want to be. And sometimes that gap gets scary. Sometimes that gap, some days you're going to feel like the gap's getting further away. And when you just focus solely on the gap between those two things, it's really, really difficult to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
So I think one of the big key things is like, well, what's the next step? What's those little milestones along the way? And we've talked about this on one of the other episodes. I believe it was Nathan and I. But then it was like mini goals and milestones. So it was like, what are those steps there? Like, what gets you closer to getting your first pull-up might be, well, I'm going to bank 3 sessions a week. And I'm going to follow my nutrition plan. I'm going to work on, like, right now I'm doing just a lat pull down. And I'm going to get onto the band with the green one, and then going to the purple and the black and the red. And if I can just tick off all of those things, and like, that's also part of what really good programming does. So like, if you've got a pathway, and this is the value of working with a coach that's been there and done it before.
Yeah.
Is I remember this this time with one of our old clients, Soph, and she'd come in and she was like, oh, like, I'd really like to get a pull-up, but I've never been able to do them. I won't be able to, I don't think I can do it. It'll take me ages. And at least like she wasn't saying I won't be able to do them. It's like, it'll take me ages. But I looked at it and I watched her move and I was like, give me 3 months. And she was like, what do you mean 3 months? I'm like, it'll happen in 3 months. You just follow what we tell you to do and it'll happen in 3 months. And I think she did in 2. But it just was the pathway of like somebody knowing, okay, here's where you are right now. Here's where we want to go. And here's the little milestones along that way there. So whether that's like the chin over bar hold for 30 seconds, and then you're working into your eccentrics and building up the strength and the supporting musculature, and what other exercises we want to hit certain milestones at that are going to support that. When you know all those pieces and you can put together a program that does that there, one, it gives the person clarity. And if the person's got clarity, the belief starts to come alongside it there too. And then two, they stop thinking about the pull-up at the end and they just start thinking about the thing that's right in front of them there. So if we can focus more on the process, on the journey, and then when you see that next step happen, you start to believe in the following steps. When you see the next step get ticked off, you start to see what you can be, not the gap between where you are and where you'd like to be.
Yes. Yeah, beautiful. So there's a few things I thought of as you were speaking there. The first thing would be just, for those listening who want to change their fixed mindsets, obviously awareness is key. You've got to take ownership of where you're limiting yourself if you want to change and have growth. And then three, you need to trust in a team of support people. So coaches, whoever else is in your realm of life, people that will help get you to the goal. Because if you're struggling to believe that yourself, it's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of energy involved. There's a lot of toing and froing in the mind. So just outsource that and give that to a professional who can do that for you. AKA what you just said then with that Soph example, saying, just give me 3 months, Soph, just show up, do these sessions, and I guarantee you'll get a pull-up. And how many pull-ups does she do now?
Oh, I couldn't
She's on the record board. She's got like 16.
Different Soph.
Oh, different Soph. Okay, but still, she did the pull-up, right?
Yeah, I think she got 5.
Oh, solid. That's so bloody good.
Yeah.
So for listeners, just make sure you trust in a support team, whether it's a gym or someone outside of that.
The accountability side of it and the community side of it's massive. And I think a big piece of it there is like the same, you want to have people around you that are, like we talked about in that footy team, is then like allowing you to believe. It's them having confidence in it, giving yourself permission to dream of what's possible, rather than you spend so long in most of your life having people try to fit you into a box. They're trying to pull you back down, tell you can't do things. And whereas what this is looking to do is like you want to surround yourself with people that want to help prove you right, want to help show you what you can do and what's possible for yourself. And I think that's such a big value, and that's in essence the heart of what's helped community gyms grow in the last 15 years. It hasn't been, sure, there's been some evolutions in the training and that sort of stuff that's become popular, but in essence, the core of it is the belief that's built in the community that you surround yourself with, and that helps people far in excess of what turning up to Anytime Fitness by themselves, headphones over and not communicate with anyone else, and then wonder why they just never made it. They didn't set themselves up for success.
Before we move on, I just want to add this in, because this is something that I think I have a lot more clarity over now, is that if you are struggling with a fixed mindset, if the limiting belief around being deeply flawed or not good enough is really, really strong, even if you do or are surrounded by people who want the best for you, that voice is going to be really loud. And sometimes the natural response when there's no awareness is to reject that. So we can instill belief in someone, but and show them all the evidence that they're amazing. But depending on how deeply fused or hooked they are on this belief of you are just not good enough, there is the potential for the person to reject the positive, healthy things in front of them, even if their whole circle around them are healthy, great people. So I do want to just highlight that if that is you, the best thing you can do for yourself is just to remind yourself, I'm surrounded by good people. I'm surrounded by people who hold great values. This is a me problem, and now this is my decision. Do I want to be great or do I not want to be great? Do I want to let my fixed limitations define me, or am I going to break free of that? Am I going to make that choice? So I thought that was really important to highlight, because that will happen. We will reject the greatness around us if we believe deeply that we are not good enough.
So how do we retrain that self-talk? How do we retrain that self-belief and keep that little inner bitch that's on your shoulder quiet?
Before we go into that, I do want to stay on this, the practical strategies, because we did start that conversation. So let me come back to the process, the dwelling in the journey, building what that clarity looks like so that when we get to the destination, we feel both meaningfully fulfilled as well as joy, pride, and satisfaction for achieving our goal. So before you were talking, when we talked about, having your support people, one of the core values we highlighted there was trust. So trust is a core value, and everyone who probably knows me or has had a conversation with me knows I love banging on about values. And that's the approach that I love to take with both myself and my clients. So values are essentially, the way that I like to say it, is your deepest desires for how you want to treat yourself, other people, and the world around you. It's being able to identify what matters most in a one-word statement. Trust, integrity, love, blah, 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 blah. So when we think about getting to our destination but not knowing what the path looks like, we can take action and participate in behaviors that are motivated by our values. So that's so workable long term, mentally and emotionally. So if we want to achieve an outcome goal, we say, okay, who do I need to become in order to get there? So maybe who I need to become needs to have a value of integrity. This means I'm going to make small promises to myself every day and keep myself accountable by telling my trainers I'm going to come to the gym 3 times a week and uphold that. So that could be an expression, a behavior that reflects the value that at the end of the day, when we check in with ourselves, we say, did I act in alignment with my value of integrity today? Did I hit the gym 3 times this week? Tick. Beautiful. And then that small behavior, like you highlighted before, done every week, right, over a long period of time, gets us consistently more momentum and closer to our outcome goal. So focusing on your actions and your behaviors that you can directly control every day, every week, and use these really meaningful tools like values to motivate that so that you have a sense of meaning and fulfillment along the way.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Your question was, how can we reframe?
How do we quieten the inner bitch? How do we change that self-dialogue, the self-talk from something that is maybe blocking the outside and blocking the external and the right environment? You might feel like you're in the right environment, but you're not quite being able to make those steps there. What do we do to then get that last little bit? How do we get over the line? How do we quieten that so that we can see the progress that we're trying to make in the rest of our life?
Okay, so this takes a little bit of work and time, effort, and practice. We can all get better with doing these little skills and practices. So we first need to be able to identify and label our negative self-talk. And so sometimes the way we speak about ourselves isn't actually our voice. Maybe it's a parent. Maybe it was a coach from the past, and we've just let that voice be part of our mindset. So we first need to be able to put a name on the negative self-talk. So something I've done with clients is just give it a funny ass name. So someone might say Negative Nancy, Regina George from Mean Girls. Like, oh, here's Regina George popping up telling me I'm fucking no good, or telling me I look fat in the mirror. So the first thing is having a bit of humor and a curiosity around when your thoughts pop up. I'm having the thought, or I'm recognizing this story. Here is the Regina George story again. By the time you've had that small conversation with yourself, it gives you enough space or breathing room to observe what's happening. And it's just that little bit of space that gives us the opportunity to do something about what's happening. So can I drop out of that story and participate and engage in an activity or a behavior that moves me towards the person I want to be today?
That's great, Jess. And I think this deserves another episode that we might dive in on the next chance that we do get you back in the studio to record. But let's wrap this one up. Let's tie it up. I do want to ask 2 quick questions of the listeners. So if you guys are driving along right now, I just want you guys to make a little mental note of this, or if you want to just pull over to the side of the road there. Not if you're on the highway. Just keep safe while you do this. But I want you guys to think about where do you notice a fixed mindset showing up in your life right now? What is the things that you're avoiding? What are those challenges that you're avoiding because of that there? And what's one small action that you could take that is going to help you move closer to your goals?
Beautiful. I would agree.
So, and then the last piece on that there is how can you reframe that to, I'm not good at this yet? So use that power of yet, because that's a really simple one that you can just start to reframe that language and start moving yourself from that fixed mindset position into the growth mindset position. And then from there, we can start making moves towards those dream outcomes, those dream goals, that vision that you have for your life. Jess, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you as always. And I know that this will be a favorite for many of the mums that are listening in.
Thank you so much for having me. And before we do wrap it up, this is so applicable in a parenting situation. Like you're going to see fixed mindsets coming up in yourself as well as your kids. So again, like Nathan's beautiful word of yet, it's such a powerful position we can be in. And when our kids say, I can't do this, I just can't do it, it's too hard, it's like yet. But with time and effort and practice, honey, you can get there.
We've had that one with Millie many a times, and we're
Yeah.
working on it. She's doing good though. She's doing good.
And-
that was teaching her to ride a bike, and maybe
Yes.
this is another episode that we'll dive into. But teaching a growth mindset for your kids and how do we do that? I think that's well worth a full
Yeah.
episode down the road. So,
Modeling it yourself would be the best way to do that.
Yeah.
So have compassion for yourself, parents who are listening. Be compassionate and kind. Just remember the word yet, and remember you can change, you can grow with time, effort, and practice.
Nailed it. This is us wrapping up the Newstrength Way podcast. Glad to be back here, guys. First one in the new studio. Thanks so much to Glenn and the Money, Money, Money podcast for letting us use their space. It's amazing here. It's incredible. And we're excited to be able to have this as our new home of the pod moving forward. See you guys next week on the pod.